just too exhausted to try to dig out anymore.
I kept thinking, you know, this is starting to get to be a bad situation. We're stuck, and where we're at right now is where we're going to stay. But every time we come to some of the hills, we'd get stuck 3 or 4 times on the hills. You know, and eventually have to shovel the whole hill off, and then he could get a run, get to the top, and we'd go a little bit further.
It just snowed and snowed and snowed and snowed, and it got deeper.
By late afternoon, the hunters have come too far to turn back. And the weather is getting worse.
Well, it started to get completely white, where every rock was covered. I mean, it was just solid white. The snow was snowing, and nothing looked familiar. You're in this huge, vast valley. We're getting stuck worse and worse and more and more.
As the hours pass, the battle to make headway is taking its toll.
The snow got so deep, you'd shovel it out and you wouldn't go 10 yards.
We were just too exhausted to try to dig out anymore.
I kept thinking, you know, this is starting to get to be a bad situation. When you start getting your progress down from, you know, 200-300 yards at a time to 2-3 yards at a time, or 2-3 feet at a time, that's when you start to realize this is done. We're stuck, and where we're at right now is where we're going to stay.
The hunters are stranded in an icy wilderness, 10,000 feet above sea level in a raging snowstorm. Night is fast approaching, and the temperatures begin to plummet to minus 40 degrees.
How am I going to get out of here?
We decided just to stop and spend the night and wait and hopefully figure out a way to get out.
That's when you're beginning to get a little bit apprehensive about, you know, how am I going to get out of here?
The hunters know they have no option but to stay put in the middle of nowhere.
It's gonna be one hell of a night for sure.
It did get worse and became a real problem.
As night falls, the temperatures plummet. Exposure to this extreme of cold can kill human beings within minutes. With just their snowsuits and a thin canvas, they have to huddle up to keep as warm as they can.
I mean, it got down to, you know, somewhere around 30 to 40 below zero that night. The back of the truck was very crowded and it was very cold. It wasn't a fun, comfortable night by no means.
I was apprehensive, scared about the cold, being out of food. It was hard.
Making some sleeping bags out there.
Dad is very, you know, compassionate, always thinking of other people.
Somebody else.
And he was worried about were they going to be warm enough. We gave them whatever they needed, socks, boots, you know, jackets, whatever we had that we didn't have on our body ourselves, we let them use.
It's okay.
As night wears on, the locals sense just how dangerous the situation is.
They're getting a little worried. They live there all the time. They realize that people don't go out of their way to come save them, and there's no such thing as a search and rescue or anything like that.
Their behavior went from kind of being a jovial, you know, fun, laughing, joking, to now it was just a blank stare, desolate, concern, worry, disbelief.
The hunters make it through a bitterly cold night. But dawn brings no let-up in the weather. And as Clay emerges from the truck, he's in for a shock. Overnight, the truck has been engulfed by a whiteout. Clay can now no longer tell land from sky.
There was nothing to see anymore. It was just a solid snow landscape. You're in this huge, vast valley. Nobody really knows where they're at. That was a nerve-wracking feeling.
To make matters worse, the local guides begin to turn to the Westerners for suggestions of what to do next.
When you got them out of their normal routine, that they didn't have a clue what to do. And that was, I think, the part that got scary. And that's when we decided, look, they're not going to get us out. We're going to have to do something else.
Seems like more and more, they're starting to look to me what to do. I'm in a foreign country, and I really don't know what to do.
Clay knows that they're stuck and in big trouble. Using his satellite phone, he makes an emergency call to the man who they booked the hunting trip from.
He was in Russia at the time, in Moscow.
This is Clay Lancaster. I'm,
And he kept making light of the situation. No, it's not bad, it's not bad. And I kept saying to him, you don't realize where we're at and what's going on right now. Like, we are stuck.
Our truck is jammed in the snow. We can't take it out.
Pretty soon he was to the point of, hey, I gotta go for supper right now. I'm busy, I can't talk to you.
Hello?
And hung up the phone and turned his phone off.
Hello?
At that point there, it's a good thing I wasn't around him.
Can you believe this guy?
I said, that's it. I'm not relying on people here. I'm getting a hold of my brother back in Canada.
But the battery in Clay's satellite phone is already on reserve.
Listen.
It's just seconds away from dying out.
These are our coordinates. It's north 42.
It was a frustrating point. I was like, why did I let so much of that battery wear down? And it was the last battery that I had.
North
Just as he's giving their exact location,
16. Hello?
the phone goes dead.
Hello? You think he heard you?
With no phone, the hunters are now completely isolated. All they can do is hunker down and try to keep warm.
Oh, thanks a lot.
We kind of got into survival mode, I guess.
Just thinking about Ruby.
Human instincts for survival do kick in when you get into a situation that you have to do something to survive.
The hunters and guides finish their last scraps of food. With nothing left to eat, they'll weaken and succumb to the cold more quickly. It's now been 24 hours since they left base camp, and they begin to doubt that they'll ever be rescued.